All right, folks, looks like we are live. Hello, hello, and welcome to Denver Today, the show where we break down your local headlines, why they matter, and what you can do to survive them. My name is Luis, I'm your host, and today is Wednesday, February 25th. Feel free to reach out to us through TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, and of course, give us a follow to stay in the loop for Denver news. That's at KUHS Denver. This episode is brought to you by Inspire Success Coaching and Consulting. A little bit more about them here in just a few minutes. So I guess let me just say hello. Let's start. Happy Wednesday. There's a lot going on this week. This is First off, I want to say hello and shout out to our number one listener. Hello, Daryl. I hope you're having a good day. Um, it's been a really big week here in Denver, as far as not necessarily with crime, but there's just a lot of stuff happening around the city. So I want to do what I can to keep you informed on what's happening. So let's just get into it, folks. So, health officials warn of a possible measles exposure at DIA and Littleton Church. Colorado health officials are warning the public about a possible measles exposure connected to Denver International Airport and a church in Littleton last weekend. According to reporting from CBS News and information from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, an out-of-state traveler with a confirmed case of measles was in Colorado while infectious on February 21st and 22nd. The individual traveled through the Denver International Airport's concourse and attended a service at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Littleton. Health officials say anyone at the church between 9:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. on February 22nd may have been exposed. Passengers on affected Frontier Airlines flights will be contacted directly by the public health agencies. Measles is highly contagious and can be spread through the air even after an infected person lives in the area. Leaves the area. Symptoms include fever, cough, red eyes, and a rash that typically starts on the face. Residents who may have been exposed are urged to monitor for symptoms for 21 days and call a healthcare provider before seeking in-person care. Free MMR vaccination clinics are being offered in Inglewood and at St. Mary's Catholic Church for those who may have been exposed. Again, this is coming from CBS, but they did also collaborate with the state public health agencies. This is a big deal, folks. Please look at your schedules. Just make sure, for whatever reason, even talk to your colleagues if you know anyone that goes to that church, just to make sure to keep an eye on your symptoms. Right? I do have a little bit here when we come back from the break. I do have a basically how-to guide of what you do if you think you have been exposed. So we'll get back into that in just a second. But I think you're going to find this next story really interesting. So Denver Center developer skips Globeville Town Hall amid community concerns. The data centers and are kind of a conversation all over the country right now, but this is local. So let me tell you what's happening over there in Globeville. Residents in Denver's Globeville and Elyria Swansea neighborhoods are voicing frustrations after data center developer failed to attend a community town hall meeting Tuesday night. So this was last night. According to reporting by Denver 7, the community core site, which is building a 170,000 square foot data center near Ray Street and 49th Avenue, did not appear at the meeting, citing safety concerns related to online discussions about the event. Residents had expected to ask questions about potential impacts on pollution, water usage, and utility costs, and many said the company's absence left important community concerns unanswered. City and state officials, including Denver City Council Representative, Denver Water, and state health officials attended the meeting and responded to questions. State officials said research into the health and environmental impacts of data centers is still ongoing. The town hall comes as Denver's mayor recently announced a temporary moratorium on the new data center projects while the city studies regulations, though that pause does not apply to the core site project already under construction. Experts say data centers power many everyday digital devices, but require significant electricity and cooling resources, which has led to increased community scrutiny. So this was initially reported by Denver 7, and this is actually happening all across the country, not necessarily in the context of them not showing up to meetings, but these data centers are popping all over the country. I know that AI is a big hot topic this year and last, but they do have real world impacts on our communities. So if you know of anything like this, please go ask questions, go get your concerns answered. It's very important. Now on to this next story. So it's been a really weird winter here in Colorado, right? And Excel actually issued a press release yesterday talking about kind of what's going on as far as the weather and fire preparation and warnings. But let me just give you all the information. Okay, this is directly from Excel. Excel Energy is preparing for a heightened wildfire risk along Colorado's Front Range. Xcel Energy says it's monitoring conditions and taking precautions as Colorado faces an increased risk of wildfires this week. The company announced Tuesday that high winds, historically low snowpack, and unseasonably warm and dry weather are creating conditions that could lead to fast-spreading fires across the Front Range and the eastern Colorado. The National Weather Service has issued red flag and high wind warnings for much of the state, with fire danger expected to remain elevated through the week. In response, Xcel Energy has activated what it calls enhanced power line safety settings. These settings make power lines more sensitive, allowing them to automatically shut off electricity if objects contact the line. A step meant to reduce the change of power equipment sparking a fire, right? However, the company warns that strong winds could also cause unplanned power outages. Excel says it's not currently planning any public safety power shutoffs. Customers are being urged to prepare now by charging devices, building emergency kits, and making sure account contact information is up to date to receive outage alerts. Residents who rely on electric-powered medical equipment are also encouraged to arrange backup power options. Xcel Energy says it will increase communication with customers if outages become likely or if wildfire conditions worsen. For local residents, this means possible weather-related outages and heightened fire risk during an unusually dry late winter period. Basically, folks, if there's nothing you feel like you can do, keep your phone charged, keep gas in your car, and just make sure you're kind of ready for something like this to happen. I'm not really a huge preparedness expert, but it doesn't hurt to have your phone charged and gas in your car. So, with that being said, I want to move on to this next story. The whole flock situation has been huge this week. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Let me see if I can turn this up. Can you folks hear me all right? Let me see. How's that? Are we doing a little better? Okay, wonderful. So, how's that? Are we doing a little better? Oh. So, Denver selects Axon for license plate reader services with new privacy safeguards. Denver may soon have a new company operating its license plate reader cameras. Mayor Mike Johnston announced the city has selected Axon to provide LPR services on public streets. The one-year contract will go before Denver City Council before the current agreement expires at the end of March. City leaders say license plate readers help solve crimes by identifying vehicles linked to investigations. Last year, the technology was used in more than 40% of Denver's homicide cases and helped recover hundreds of stolen vehicles. The new contract includes strict privacy rules. Data would be kept for no more than 21 days unless needed for an active investigation. The city would retain full ownership of the data, and access would be limited to Colorado's law enforcement agencies that follow Denver's standards. Officials say the agreement is designed to balance public safety with privacy concerns for residents. This is a really interesting story because I don't think anyone else wanted, this is me speaking on opinion right now, right? I don't think anyone wanted a different company on the flock cameras. They just didn't want the cameras there. But, you know, one step at a time. So, Senate committee advances bill to limit license plate data sharing in Colorado. So this kind of goes off with the next one. This is directly from the Colorado Democrats. A bill aimed at strengthening privacy rules around license plate reader data is moving forward at the state capitol. The Senate Judiciary Committee has approved Senate Bill 26-070, sponsored by Senator Judy, available for Boulder, and co-sponsored by Senator Linda Zamora Wilson of El Paso County. The measure would require law enforcement to obtain a warrant before accessing historical location data collected by automated license plate readers, with limited exceptions for emergencies. The bill would also prohibit the sale of that data, limit retention to 30 days unless tied to an active investigation, and restrict sharing with out-of-state agencies unless ordered by a court. It would also require audits of public reports and allow the state attorney general to take legal actions for intentional violations. Supporters say the goal is to protect personal privacy while preserving law enforcement's ability to solve crimes. The bill now heads to the Senate Appropriations Committee for further review. So there's just a lot going on, but like I said, we're going to keep following this story. I've been following it for like a month, just because these flock cameras affect everybody. They affect everyone's how they feel safe in their communities or they don't, you know. So this is a really interesting story. But on to the next one. I want to talk a little bit about how Colorado's responded to Trump's State of the Union address. So Senator Hickenlooper criticized President Trump's State of the Union address. Basically, he did this directly through his own press site. This is directly from him. So, Senator John Hickenlooper is speaking out following President Donald Trump's State of the Union address, releasing a statement strongly criticizing the president's remarks and policies. In a statement issued from Washington, Hickenlooper said working families are continuing to face high costs for groceries and health care, and accused the administration of harming small businesses through trade policies and cutting support for programs, including child care funding. The senator also raised concerns about federal immigration enforcement, pointing to the case of his State of the Union guest, Caroline Diaz Goncalves, a dreamer who was detained by ICE in Colorado last year following a traffic stop and held at an Aurora detention facility for 15 days before being released. Hickenlooper said the case highlights what he described as the human impact of current immigration policies. Governor Jared Polis also had some comments to say about this State of the Union address. So, Governor Polis criticizes President Trump's tariff policies following State of the Union. Governor Jared Polis is responding to President Donald Trump's State of the Union address, raising concerns about the impact of federal tariff policies on Colorado's economy. In a statement released last night, Polis said tariffs function as a tax on American consumers, arguing that they increase costs for families, farmers, and small businesses through higher prices on everyday goods and construction materials. According to analysis from the governor's Office of State Planning and Budgeting, elevated tariffs were linked to hundreds of job losses in Colorado's agriculture and technology sectors, along with declines in state economic output. The report also projected reduced state revenue in the coming fiscal years, which could impact funding for schools, public safety, and infrastructure. Polis said Colorado supports fair trade policies, but called for economic approaches that lower costs for residents. I promise that's just outside. No one's coming in to arrest us in the studio. So, this is a really interesting story because it's true. You know, I've seen it happen. I've seen a lot of layoffs happen in the city. I'm not an economist by any means, but it's pretty simple that these tariffs are not helping our communities. So, moving on to this next story about something that is helping our communities. This is actually a really cool story. So, Colorado leaders promote Tamale Act to expand home-based food sales. This is already active in California. I'm really glad Colorado is following suit. This is going to be a huge support for small businesses. So, let me give you the details. Colorado lawmakers and Governor Jared Polis are promoting a new bipartisan legislation aimed at expanding opportunities for home-based food entrepreneurs across the state. The bill, known as House Bill 26-33, or the Tamale Act, would expand Colorado's cottage food laws, allowing certain homemade foods like tamales, burritos, and tortas to be legally sold under updated regulations. State leaders say current rules limit what home cooks can sell, and the proposal would remove barriers that prevent many small food businesses from operating legally while still requiring food safety training and health oversight. Supporters say the measure could help small kitchen entrepreneurs, including many in Colorado's Latino community, turn home cooking into legal business and new sources of income. If approved, Colorado could join other Western states that already allow the sale of certain perishable homemade foods. This program is really popular in California. I've seen it. I think this is a great opportunity. We just have to see how it plays out. Let me just go ahead and move on to this next story. We got a lot to cover today. Oh no, okay, hold on. Actually, before we do that, I need to go cut to commercial break for just a second, so hang tight.
Keeps you informed on what's happening around the city. We break down the top headlines, explain why they matter, and connect the dots so you don't just hear the news, you understand it. Denver Today, Wednesdays and Fridays at noon. Hosted by Luis Bustos. Your city, your stories. From KUHSdenver.com. Denver moves fast. Don't get left behind. Denver Today brings you the top headlines from around the city and explains why they matter. Hosted by Luis Bustos. Wednesday and Friday at noon. Real news, real Denver on KUHSdenver.com.
All right, folks, we are back. Make sure my mic is on. So, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello, friends. Welcome back. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about this next story. There we go. I just want to make sure you can hear me, folks. Okay. So, Colorado Senate passes bill creating legal pathway for immigration enforcement rights claims. The Colorado Senate has approved a bill aimed at expanding legal protections for people whose constitutional rights are allegedly violated during federal immigration enforcement actions. Senate Bill 26-005, sponsored by Senators Mike Wiseman of Aurora and Julie Gonzalez of Denver, would allow individuals to file civil cases in state court if they believe their U.S. constitutional rights were violated by federal officers during civil immigration operations. Supporters say the measure creates a clear legal pathway for accountability and reaffirms constitutional protections for people living in Colorado. Under the bill, officers found responsible could face legal liability and be required to provide relief to the person harmed. So, let me just explain. Okay, so the legislation is now making moves forward in the lawmaking process as the state leaders continue debate over immigration policy and civil rights protections. This is going to be a domino effect, folks. Let's keep an eye on this story. So, Senator Bennett introduces a bill requiring refunds of overturned federal tariffs. Colorado U.S. Senator Michael Bennett and several Senate colleagues have introduced new legislation that would require refunds for tariffs recently ruled unlawful by the U.S. Supreme Court. The proposal, called the Tariff Refund Act of 2026, would require the federal government to return all money collected under the invalidated tariffs with interest within 180 days. Lawmakers say the Trump administration collected an estimated $175 billion through the tariffs, which they argue increased costs for American families and created financial pressure for small businesses. The bill would direct U.S. Customs and Border Protections to prioritize refunds to small businesses, coordinate with the Small Business Administration for support, and provide regular reports for Congress until the payments are completed. Supporters say the measure is intended to create a clear and timely process so businesses do not need to navigate complex legal steps to receive refunds. So we'll keep an eye on this one too for you. Next story: Senator Bennett joins bipartisan lawmakers urging Taiwan to increase defense spending. Colorado. So this is kind of an international story, but it's really interesting to see the work that our senators are getting done outside of just Colorado, right? So, um, let's see. U.S. Senator Michael Bennett has joined a bipartisan group of lawmakers calling on Taiwan to boost its defense spending amid growing tensions with China. In a letter sent to Taiwan's legislature, members of Congress expressed concern that a proposed defense budget may not be fully funded, warning that stronger military investment is needed to deter aggression from the People's Republic of China. Lawmakers said the United States remains committed to supporting Taiwan's security, including working to speed up weapons deliveries, but added that Taiwan must also increase its own defense funding to keep pace with rising military pressure from Beijing. The letter cited recent Chinese military activity near Taiwan, including airspace incursions and large-scale military exercises, as reasons for urgent action. The effort includes both Democratic and Republican members of the U.S. Senate and House, reflecting broad bipartisan support for Taiwan's security partnership with the United States. The announcement comes from a press release issued by the Office of U.S. Senator Michael Bennett, right? So this is directly from him. So I told you earlier that we'd come back to that measles story, right? So let me give you a little bit more information because Denver health officials shared guidance on what to do after possible exposures. So let me give you that real quick. Today's show is flying by, folks. Thank you for hanging out with me. I know we're moving a little fast. So, Denver public health officials are urging residents to act quickly if they believe that may have been exposed to measles. As outbreaks continue, the U.S. and around the world. So, in a new public health blog post, the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment says measles is highly contagious and can remain in the air for up to 2 hours after an infected person leaves. Exposure can happen simply by being in the same room or indoor space during the contagious period, right? Health officials say anyone who may have been exposed should call a healthcare provider before visiting a clinic or hospital to prevent further spread. Denver residents can also contact the city's epidemiology team directly for guidance. Symptoms can appear between 7 and 21 days after exposure and include fever, cough, eyes, red rash that starts in the face, and spreads. People who develop symptoms are advised to stay home and avoid public spaces. Officials say the vaccine remains the best protection, with 2 doses of MMR vaccine providing more than 97% protection against measles. All right, folks. So that's kind of what you do. If you feel like you've been exposed to measles, take this seriously. And it's not necessarily about knowing if you'll be okay, but there are people with, I guess, heightened immunity concerns. You know, folks, senior folks, people with disabilities. We got to do what we can to support our communities, okay? So, this next story is actually really interesting. I'm going to adjust my mic just a little bit. So, this is going to be a polarizing story, I can tell, but I want to share it with you. Colorado Senate passes bill to keep minors' name change records private. The Colorado Senate has approved a bill aimed at protecting the privacy of minors who legally change their names. Senate Bill 26-018, sponsored by Senators Katie Wallace of Longmont and Chris Colker of Centennial, would require courts to automatically suppress public records related to name change petitions filed by people under the age of 18. Supporters say minors change their names for many reasons, including adoption, cultural or religious ceremonies, and gender transition, and that publicly available records can make young people easy to identify and potentially put them at risk. Under the bill, records would remain sealed unless the individual consents to release them or has a prior felony conviction. Lawmakers say the goal is to protect privacy and support the well-being of young people who are still maintaining limited access when necessary to those names and that information. The bill now moves to the Colorado House for further consideration, so we'll follow that one too. I think that's going to be very beneficial for the young people of Colorado. I think we could do anything we can do to support the young people, we should be doing it. Douglas County approves new ordinance targeting retail theft. The retail theft in Douglas County is crazy. I've seen so many videos of, there was a sting a few months ago where it was, they were ramming their trucks into liquor stores and stealing all this, and liquor's obviously very expensive, right? They resell it XYZ. But let me kind of give you more information on this. Douglas County leaders have unanimously approved a new ordinance aimed at reducing retail theft and supporting local businesses. The Board of County Commissioners adopted the measure during a February 24th business meeting following weeks of public input from residents, business owners, and industry groups. The ordinances encourage businesses to report theft more quickly so law enforcement can respond faster and identify patterns of organized retail crime. It also discourages corporate policies that prevent employees from reporting criminal activity. Updated provisions include an online reporting option, flexible reporting timelines that begin when a business becomes aware of the theft, and protections for businesses making good faith efforts to comply. County officials say the violations will not be used to label businesses as a public nuisance. Local leaders say the goal is to improve public safety while protecting small businesses and the local economy from the impacts of retail crime. Let me kind of elaborate on this story a little bit in the sense of label businesses as public nuisance. This is something that I didn't really understand until I worked at, I think I was like 18 working at a hotel, right? And this hotel it wasn't in a super nice neighborhood. You know, we would have issues, and not necessarily like crime and stuff, but like stuff happens, right? Be like just weird little stuff, right? And it got to the point where we couldn't contact the police because they considered us a nuisance property, and it was just a huge bummer. It made everyone really unsafe. So I'm really glad this program is here for these business owners that are ultimately victims, right, of this. So, but with that being said, I want to move on to this next story because this is kind of where you can get involved in making an impact in your community that doesn't cost money, right? So, Westminster launches community listening sessions on utility affordability. The City of Westminster is inviting residents to share their experiences with rising utility costs through the series of community listening sessions. City officials say the drop-in events are designed to give residents a chance to speak directly with staff and local leaders about financial challenges related to utilities, while also learning about the affordability resources, right? Feedback from these sessions will help shape priorities as the city begins developing its 2027 budget, including possible assistance programs. The first session is scheduled for Thursday, February 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Westview Recreation Center. So that is tomorrow, sorry, with additional events planned at the recreation centers and libraries through this spring. I will keep you updated on all those events, but like I said, the first one is going to be tomorrow from 5 to 7 at Westview Recreation Center. City leaders say the goal is to meet residents and everyday community spaces and better understand how utility costs are impacting households. So this is a really important program for you to get involved in if you're being impacted by this. And the direct response is going to be this next story. So this is what happens when people get involved in their communities. Brighton opens applications for free home repair program for seniors and disabled residents. The City of Brighton is now accepting applications for its annual Help for Homes program, which provides free exterior home repairs and yard cleanup for qualifying residents. The community volunteer project, now in its 21st year, connects neighbors and local volunteers to help seniors and permanently disabled homeowners with minor outdoor repairs, including painting and general property cleanup. This year's workday is scheduled for May 2nd. To qualify, applicants must be Brighton residents who live in the home, meet income requirements, and have no plans to sell or move in the near future. Applications must be submitted by March 25th at the Sue Corbett Active Adult Center. So, at the Sue Corbett Active Adult Center. Between 10 and 15 homes will be selected at no cost to homeowners. The city is also seeking volunteers to assist with the project, with team signups open through mid-April. So, on the topic of community, I guess let me tell you what Centennial's up to. So, Centennial opens applications for community improvement grants. The City of Centennial is now accepting applications for its annual large community improvement grant program, offering funding to help residents lead local neighborhood projects. The program provides up to $10,000 per project to support community-driven improvements designed to enhance neighborhood identity and public spaces within the city. Officials say projects must be located in Centennial, meet city regulations, and be led by at least 2 residents from different households. Applicants are also required to meet with the city's neighborhood services manager before submitting a proposal. The deadline to apply is April 1st, 2026, and selected projects will include a recognition plaque highlighting the partnership between residents and the city. City leaders say the grant is intended to give communities the resources to turn local ideas into visible improvements. I've reported on this one actually twice, but I'm going to keep updating you folks and reminding you because this is a wonderful program for anyone in Centennial. Oh my gosh, and with that, we're almost out of time. Oh no. So let's keep going though. I want to see how much I can knock out before we have to get going. I want to keep you informed. So, Thornton hires a new assistant city manager to oversee development and community services. The city of Thornton has hired Jessica Prosser as its new assistant city manager following a nationwide search. City officials say the new position will focus on quality of life and development initiatives, including oversight and planning and economic development, parks and recreation, and community programs. Those programs will combine services such as code enforcement, housing, human services, and community engagement. Prosser most recently served as Director of Housing and Community Services for the City of Aurora, where she managed programs related to housing, homelessness, and response, and community outreach as well. She also previously held roles at with the cities of Aurora and Arvada. Thornton leaders say her experience will support the city's strategic plan to future organizational changes aimed at improving services for residents. Oh, no, I think we have time for one more story, but this is a really fun one though. So registration is open for the annual Egg Splash event in Brighton. The registration is now open for the City of Brighton's annual Egg Splash event at the Brighton Recreation Center. The indoor egg hunt will take place March 28th and 29th at the Recreation Center pool on North 11th Avenue. Children will swim, collect plastic eggs from the pool, and trade them in for a goodie bag. The event is open to children from birth through age 17, with 45-minute time slots available through the weekend. Tickets cost $7 per child, and adult chaperones are required for children under 7 or any child who cannot swim. Participants are asked to wear swimwear and bring a basket to collect their eggs. Registration and event details are available at brightonco.gov/eggsplash. Again, that's brightonco.gov/eggsplash. And that seems like a real fun event. $7 a ticket to go have some fun with your kids, and there's prizes and a swimming pool. I think that's a great event. But let me see. Oh my gosh, do we have time for one more? I'll give you one more. Okay. Littleton Downtown Improvement Projects enters design phase. The city of Littleton is moving forward with the next steps of its long-term downtown revitalization effort as the Main Street Improvement Project enters its design phase. The project is part of Project Downtown, an initiative, excuse me, an initiative aimed at modernizing infrastructure while preserving the historic character of Littleton's Main Street. Planned upgrades include safety improvements, better walkability, and accessibility. Um, tree restoration and new green infrastructure. City officials are currently seeking professional design services who work with work expected to begin this spring after a consultant is selected. During this phase, engineers detail construction timelines, costs, and strategies to keep businesses accessible during construction while it's being done, right? So leaders say the goal is to balance long-term improvement with the daily needs of residents, visitors, and local businesses. So I think this is a really wonderful story. I used to live in Littleton, so I have a lot of love for this tiny town. Littleton is a real special place here in Denver, so I just want to show them some love. But with that being said, I think we're actually out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see you on Friday, and we're going to cover a little bit more of events of what's happening in Denver this weekend. But thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Denver Today.